続いて、ある大型機関投資家によるサステナブルファイナンスへの取り組みをテーマに、ノルウェー中央銀行インベストメントマネジメントガバナンスコンプライアンス担当役員カリーヌ・スミス・イエナチョ様にご講演いただきます。本日はビデオメッセージでのご講演となります。
It is a pleasure to participate in the Tokyo Sustainable Finance Week. My name is Carine Ihenacho. I'm the Chief Governance and Compliance Officer of Norges Bank Investment Management. The fund I represent is the manager of the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund. Our mission is to safeguard and build wealth for future generations of Norwegians. We are a large global fund, now worth around $1.3 trillion. We are invested in listed equities, fixed income, real estate, and unlisted renewable infrastructure. More than 70% of the fund is invested in listed equities, which means that we have a small share of more than 9,000 companies in 71 countries. We own on average 1.5% of all the world's listed companies. And Japan is our second largest market. We have around $75 billion invested in Japan, which is approximately 8,500 billion yen. And here you see our top 5 holdings in Japan. We are a large investor in companies such as Toyota, Sony, and SoftBank. We very much appreciate being a shareholder in the Japanese market, and I have very good memories of company meetings there. And hopefully I'll get the chance to travel and visit Japan soon. So what do we expect from the many companies we have invested in around the world? Our starting point is that we have clear expectations to all the 9 companies we have invested in when it comes to key sustainability challenges and opportunities. This includes environmental and social issues. Under social issues, our main priorities are, as you can see from this slide, human rights, children's rights, anti-corruption, and tax and transparency. Under environmental issues, our priorities are climate risk, water management, ocean sustainability, and biodiversity. And why do we care about this? The world's economic, environmental, and social future is our future. Long-term value creation will depend on how well companies manage the many sustainability challenges facing them. Our expectations are directed at companies' board. The board should have oversight of the key sustainability risks and opportunities faced by their companies and account for associated outcomes. Let me say something explicitly about our climate change expectations. As a fund, we have a clear interest in a successful climate transition in line with the Paris Agreement. We have, for more than 10 years, published expectations on how we think companies should consider climate-related issues. Our starting point also here is that boards should have oversight of the company's climate-related risks and opportunities and account for associated outcomes. More specifically, we expect companies to describe how their business strategy and climate targets take into account the goals of the Paris Agreement. We also encourage companies to report their climate-related exposures in line with the TCFD recommendations and to use the metrics developed by the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, often known as SASB. This information helps us make the right investment decisions and prioritize our ownership efforts. We have also developed clear positions on key corporate governance issues. They cover themes around effective board and shareholder protection. One example is that we believe the CEO should not also be the board chair. Another example is that we believe in diverse boards and that the companies should aim for 30% female representation. We have in all 12 positions, and together they are captured in our global voting guidelines. This means that we can vote in a predictable and transparent manner in all our portfolio companies every year. We are an active owner. We aim to be a good owner and a supportive owner. And we do this by being predictable, principled, and transparent. But what does this mean in practice? It means that we engage actively with the companies we have invested in. We do this mainly through voting and dialogue. On this slide, you can see the extent of our engagement. Last year, we voted on more than 120,000 resolutions and participated in almost 3,000 company meetings. In Japan alone, we voted on more than 6,000 resolutions. We also assess companies' work against our expectations every year. And last year, we performed more than 4,000 assessments of companies' reporting. When it comes to voting, our default position is to support the board. However, we vote against the board when we believe they have failed to adequately manage our interests as shareholders. And this could include how they handle climate risk issues. We now publish all our voting intentions 5 days before the general meeting, so that the companies, other investors, and the rest of the market can know how we will vote. In addition, we explain our voting rationale whenever we vote against the board's recommendations. We have published a note, as you see a picture here, that describes how we assess shareholders' resolutions on sustainability. We support proposals if they address a material issue and do not seek to micromanage the company's strategy and operations. We have a dedicated team that reviews every sustainability shareholder proposal. It is a time-consuming job, but it is important that we do this in a principled way. In 2020, we voted, as an example, on 39 climate resolutions and supported 14 proposals. And the number of shareholder resolutions getting majority support are increasing, as you also see from this slide. And I believe it's a mix of these resolutions getting more relevant and a shifting sentiment in the shareholder community. To make good investment decisions, it's important to know our companies well. Engagement is one of the most effective ways in which we can convey our views and influence companies and learn more about them. Last year, we had almost 3,000 company meetings from our kitchens and living room. As an example, we discussed climate change issues in more than 500 company meetings. Through these discussions, we gain insight into companies' preparedness to manage the climate-related risks and opportunities that the low-carbon transition presents. We can then identify the climate change winners and those that are further behind the curve. We ask those companies that have not yet set ambitious climate targets to do so and to publish a climate plan outlining how they will reach their targets. Since we first started to raise climate change in dialogues in 2006, we have broadened the scale and scope of our dialogues. In recent years, we have primarily focused on emission-intensive sectors, be it scope 1, scope 2, or 3, beyond the energy system. Overall, the conversation with companies have hugely progressed. And looking back 10 years ago, it would have been difficult to imagine that we today have discussions with CEOs and board members about their climate change strategy and how their business models could be affected by different climate scenarios. I mentioned that we assess companies' work against our expectations. This is a tedious analysis we do every year, but it gives us a unique database and basis for both company engagement and investment decisions. So what do we see? Based on our analysis, we see huge growth and improvement in disclosure, even in the time of a pandemic. But there's still a long way to go in terms of quantity of disclosure from companies, especially on other issues than climate change. We have noted that for several years, the companies score much better on environmental than social topics. This is also true in 2020, which you can see from this slide. Many more companies have very strong reporting on topics such as climate change, water management, and deforestation. But this should not surprise us much. It is linked both to the strong reporting frameworks out there, such as the CDP questionnaire, but also to the focus companies have paid to the issues. We also see geographical differences. European companies are in general better at sustainability reporting. Next comes companies in USA and then companies in Asia. So I would encourage all Japanese companies to see whether you can increase your sustainability reporting. It is useful information for your investors like us. In the end, though, the reporting is not the big job for companies. The big job is to have a proper sustainability strategy incorporated into risk management and governance procedures and followed up with measurement and reporting. A part of our responsible investment work is to invest more in some companies and less in others. We have a dedicated environmental mandate. Here we invest in companies that contribute to the low carbon transitions through their product and service offerings. At the end of 2020, we had 100 billion Norwegian kroner invested in 90 companies under these mandates. And in 2019, the Norwegian Parliament allowed the fund to invest in renewable energy infrastructure, and we just announced our first investment in a wind farm off the coast of the Netherlands. And it is interesting to note that the environmental mandates last year gave a higher return than the rest of the fund. Our ownership work can also lead to investment decisions. We may choose to divest from companies to reduce sustainability risk if we consider that active ownership is not appropriate and it is within our risk limit. As an example, over the years, we have divested from 170 companies due to climate-related reasons. This includes companies involved in deforestation through the production or use of commodities. Altogether, we have divested from 314 companies since we started doing this in 2012. And in addition to reducing our risk, we have made money on this. Since 2012, risk-based divestment have increased the cumulative return on our equity portfolio by around 0.4 percentage point or 0.02 percentage point annually. We aim to be a transparent fund. You can get more information on the themes I have covered here or other areas of the fund at our website, www.nbim.no. Thank you.
カリーヌ・スミス・イエナチョ様、ありがとうございました。